Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episodes 9 and 10 of Centaurworld. So yeah, we're actually doing 2 episodes here at once, and the reason is because I was told on the Discord that these 2 episodes are billed as a 2-parter. They are like specifically listed that way. This is what I've been told, so it's what I'm going with. So I think usually I tend to do this anyways, have the last 2 episodes of a season together. So it's not like that unusual. I wasn't going to do it for this series because I figured like it probably wasn't going to follow that formula. Just based on how the series was laid out, but I guess it is. I didn't really have like any strong feelings towards needing to do only 1 episode at a time. It's just the only reason I was doing that, like 1 episode at a time specifically, was because I didn't want to rush through this series. I wanted to make sure that I was enjoying it. But I mean, like 1 2-part thing for the finale of season 1 is fine. I don't think that'll really hurt anything. Now, I will say, just as a reminder, we will be going straight into season 2 after this. I'm reminding you because this isn't something we normally do on the channel. We normally take a break between seasons, but there's no way I'm going to be able to take a break here. It again, as I said last time, if I did that, Centaurworld would be just so on my mind that it would be distracting me from everything else, which is a good thing. It's a very good thing. And after how intense last episode was, on rewatches and watches with some reactions I saw, some of the few that exist, it's like there's some things that I did not notice really when I was doing my reaction, or it just didn't click with me as quickly or as strongly, but it's like it was a very heavy episode, and it was a lot, but it was also very beautiful and triumphant. So it was really good, and this entire series has been really good. So I can't say anything negative here. But one last thing before we begin, I will say that you can expect to see a top 10 favorite songs of Centaurworld video coming up. Now I'm recording this reaction well in advance, so I'm going to plan for that video to be put up around the same time, like maybe a day or 2 after this is uploaded to the channel. And it's just going to cover my favorite songs from season 1, and we'll probably do another one for season 2. We're doing this kind of instead of like top 10 episodes, but because there's only 10 episodes, so I was thinking of maybe doing like a top 3 or top 5 episodes, maybe. But I'm not sure, because I feel like if I did that, I would have to talk about them, because it would warrant explanation. Usually I do the clip show stuff, but maybe I could do like a little like discussion vlog video, like talking about my favorite episodes and why they're my favorite episodes. It's an idea, at least. Um, but I'm not going to say for sure. The top 10 songs, though, will be happening. And I'll tell you right now that I don't know what kind of songs are going to be in these last two episodes, but I've been working on this list and it's been very hard. It's been very difficult to cut it down to 10. Because the songs in this are actually really good for the most part. There's a lot of songs that are stupid and goofy and um, I would say not out of place, but just they don't say much, you know? But then you do have the songs that say a lot. Um, Even if they seem goofier or whatnot, they actually reveal quite a bit about the characters and all. And then some of the songs are just like really fucking high quality, surprisingly so even. Um, and it's like there's one song that I thought was going to be my number one for a good portion of time here, and then it ended up like I ended up questioning that, and now I don't know. um, after I finish this today and everything, after I finish recording this finale, I am gonna go through all of the songs again to like really just determine it. It's gonna be based on all the kind of factors you would think, like the vocal performances, the lyrics, the just overall like melodies and sounds of the songs, the beats, anything like that, everything like that. And it's obviously going to be very subjective, but I do want to make this list because I feel like the music in this series is a big part of the show. It's a musical. And some of the songs are again very goofy or silly, but some of the songs move the plot along or hammer in a lot of the lore even. So I feel like it's the right specific top 10 to make for this series. Um, just in my opinion. But either way, we're just going to get started with this finale, check out these final two episodes, and hope for the best. So, when the screen fades to black, bleh, when the screen fades to black, pause these two. I'm messing up here quite a bit. Okay, let's start again. Calm down, slow down. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then it fades back in. Everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episodes. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I was wondering while watching this how this was going to like go wrong. I kind of assumed it would have something to do with the Nowhere King. That just makes sense. But I was wondering like exactly what was going to keep Horse and Ryder and whatnot like from truly going home and going back to the status quo and everything. I did not really think about the idea that the rift itself was a prison for the Nowhere King. Like that didn't really cross my mind. And yet it makes sense as to why the woman was so afraid of everything being put together and all. Of the rift being open. It makes sense. The only other idea like I had like with why she would be afraid of the rift being open is if the Nowhere King was in the other world. So this two-parter was intense. We got a full season finale battle against the main villain of the series. We got our characters dealing with loss and themes of letting go and whatnot. And in the end, we set a kind of focus for season 2. The building of armies between the two worlds to fight the Nowhere King. Ryder and Water Baby are going to prepare the armies of the humans, led by the general. And Horse is going to prepare armies for Centaurworld. Now, Centaurworld has already faced the Minotaurs and has already, been engulfed in war. We know this. It's the reason why Wamawink is a war orphan. And probably explains a lot more as well. Such as why all of the Murtars had, for all practical sense and purposes, committed suicide by jumping into the mouth of the whale tar. It's probably the catalyst for why a lot of Centaurworld is the way it is and why a lot of the characters within it are the way they are. So it's not going to be easy building an army from citizens who are still feeling the effects of such a traumatic experience. Trauma sticks with people. As someone who's experienced it, it's not something that just goes away. You might have these little victories here and there. You might have these moments even where you're not thinking about it at all, but it's still there. And it will creep back up on you. You can heal to a degree from it, but not completely. So it's going to be difficult to encourage the citizens of Centaurworld to face that trauma head on. And I don't know if we're going to focus on recruiting the characters we've seen throughout season 1, or if we're going to focus on new characters or a mix. But this is going to be a very difficult task. Now, another thing I want to mention here is I'm not normally a fan of when a series repeats itself. When a series takes a plot point from a season and then just kind of recycles it for the second season, but in a slightly different way. I feel it's lazy, honestly. This was an issue I pointed out with Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts. How throughout the first season, Kipo was searching for her father. And then at the end of season 1, after she had found him and everything, he gets kidnapped again, and she has to start, and season 2 begins, at least, with her having to search for him again. It's recycling the same idea. Even though the circumstances behind it are different, it's still the same motivation for her, the same goal. And I feel like it's doing the same thing here, but it's done drastically better here, and I'll explain. The goal of this season for Horse was to get back to Ryder. That was her goal, that was her motivation the entire time. And while she definitely made friends with the herd in Centaurworld and became accustomed to it and even grew to love it. That was still her goal. And now they've split up again. And her goal for season 2 is going to be to reunite once again with Ryder. The difference here is that basically, okay, I can boil it down to one word. The difference between the two seasons and the way that it's portrayed here is choice. In the first season, there was no choice given to the motivation. Horse wanted to get back to Ryder because she needed to, because their separation was forced upon them. The rift, I guess, temporarily opened due to the piece of the key that Horse had, allowing her to pass through when she fell off the cliff, separated from Ryder against her will. Here, they separate willingly, acknowledging that it's needed in order to get the two armies to eventually come together. Once, a Centaurworld army is even created. But it was by their choice to separate again. They had just reunited, but they understood they needed to do this. By adding in that choice, it allows this circumstance to feel entirely different. They're not separated. They've gone their own ways. They're doing their own things separate from each other, but not forcibly so. This allows them to have a certain autonomy with this choice, and allows it to be their motivation going into season 2. They're able to use the fact that this was their choice to motivate them to get those armies going and prepare for the future of what this is all going to lead to. This is how you do that kind of thing. Kipo, the only difference was that Leo was captured instead of just being separated from Kipo this time in season 2. There was still no choice there. It was something that was actively taken once again by someone else's choice outside of Kipo. The first time the separation happened because of Leo, and the second time it was because of Scarlemagne, Hugo. It wasn't as well executed. And mind you, it did end up working out in the end. It didn't end up ruining either season or the series or anything. It did end up working out, but it definitely was not as well handled as it is here. Adding in that choice allows it to feel like a different circumstance. And it allows it to come across as a lot more natural. And let's talk about Wamawink. Or, as I'm liking to call her lately, Mama Wink. Because she is clearly the mom of the group. And she wants to protect, beyond anything else, her fragile things. Like, Glendale is still my favorite character. She's absolutely insane in the best ways. She has so much great personality. She's funny as fuck. But let's be completely fair here. Wamawink is the best character. Her depth, her emotion, her story, everything like completely builds her character. Her motivations, her goals, the way she acts and reacts is all based upon her history, her trauma, the loss of her entire herd in war when she was just a baby. And that's why she initially created the bubble, the force field around Centaur Valley, to protect the herd she now had from a world that took her old one. She was afraid of losing loved ones to forces beyond her control. And we see in this finale, Horse is gonna go through the rift and she doesn't want to let her go. Not just because of a general she'll miss her, but you know it's because of her past. She's lost so much, and she's done so much to not lose any of her herd again. And without question, Horse is a part of her herd. Without question, Horse is like a daughter to her. And she doesn't want to lose her, even if it's not through death and war. Even if it's a choice that Horse is making to reunite with someone that she cares about. Wamawink is still afraid to lose someone this close to her. She understands that Horse wants to reunite with Ryder, and she accepts that. But she's just having a hard time letting go. And that's reasonable. The trauma she's gone through, the pain she's gone through, has made her a bit overprotective. And it's made her scared and concerned and someone who doesn't want to let go, no matter what. And when Horse doesn't come back through the rift initially and everything, it's like she's panicked and she wants to go and help her, and eventually she helps fight with her and for her. Because again, Horse is part of her herd, part of her family. I'm not going to stop saying it. The found family trope is my favorite trope in all of fiction. It's important to me. As someone who values that in my own life. I have multiple groups of people I could consider a found family, who accept and love me, who treat me with respect and care. And I value that so greatly. So every time I see this trope used in media, it's important. Above anything else that a series could do. If a show utilizes the found family trope, it's very likely going to win me over. Not always. There are some exceptions to that, and there are some shows that have utilized that I feel have gone poorly in the end. Even if most of the series ended up being good, like Steven Universe is a huge example of that. Doing the found family trope, but then also kind of losing its way in the end. Starverse I wouldn't really consider found family. Like, it's not quite the same kind of trope with how that's handled. But that also went to crap in the end. Either way, not the point. The point is that this series clearly was following that trope from the beginning. That was obvious. But I didn't quite know how fucking attached I would be to these characters by the end of the season. I feel like part of the herd. And the series has made me feel like that. Through excellent character writing and likable personalities. Even with these characters being as ridiculous as they are, even with them also kind of following some tropes themselves, they still feel like people. And I would say it's up there with the likes of Amphibia or Owl House in terms of how it handles the found family trope. And by that, I mean it handles it perfectly. Because it's just like you believe that this is a family. As different as they are, as disjointed as they can sometimes be, and they can argue and disagree and have issues here and there. And that's important because it's realistic. And despite those issues, they always come back and show that love, that acceptance, that unquestionable support. Their fighting never reaches toxic, negative levels. It's natural in the way it's handled. And it's definitely something you see in the likes of Amphibia and Owl House. And dealing with Hot Pop line about the box, the music box. Luz and Ida fighting over Ida's desire to protect Luz and keep her away from the battle with Belos. You see this in these kind of shows all the time. And again, it's done excellently here. Because you believe every second of it. Horse calls them her friends, but they're her family. Just as much as Ryder is. And they'll always have each other's back. And that's what appeals to me most about Centaurworld. More than the humor, which is fantastic, by the way. More than the great animation, the fantastic voice acting, the wonderful songs. More than the surprisingly tightly written plot. What truly captures my heart with this series is it's heart. It's exactly that. It's the family that it births with its characters. The emotions you feel when big things happen because you care. And that's the true highlight here. But this finale had other things to offer too. We finally meet the Nowhere King. The main villain of the series who has been built up throughout the season. And again, I already knew what he looked like. I've seen some screen captures and stuff. I haven't seen him in motion before. That was trippy. I haven't heard his voice before. I didn't know anything about the character other than his name and his appearance. And we find out a lot more than I expected to in this finale. Like, I expected that we would find things out, but this finale actually directly explained quite a bit and even showed some stuff in the background. So, directly, it practically told us that the woman and the centaur, or the woman and the Nowhere King, were a couple at some point. That at least the Nowhere King blames the woman for the form he is in now. I don't know if she's actually the cause of it, or if that's just how he sees it, but he blames her for it. And it also directly shows us that there is still something there. They both still have feelings for each other. That is made very clear. But then there's something that this shows us. And I want to make sure I get this exactly right, so let me find it here. I believe it's in episode 10. Yeah, because episode 9 only just barely shows us. Let me see if I can find it here. It's in the other world. And it's like, it's not shown like very like heavily, but it is shown. I think it's like right near the end. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, like right here. Okay. So the Nowhere King comes into this throne room, and on the wall you see this mural. And in the center of a mural, there is a woman holding hands with a centaur. And they're surrounded by what looks like other humans and centaurs. You see one that looks kind of like Durpleton, possibly. But I would bet you fucking anything that the woman and the centaur in the middle are the woman and the Nowhere King. I would bet you fucking anything that that is the case. Which means that the Nowhere King was a centaur at one point, which makes sense. Obviously, he originates from Centaurworld. I think that's pretty fairly obvious. But this mural tells us that they were once not only together, which we already knew, but it tells us that he was a centaur. And based on the fact that it looks like the humans and the centaurs are holding hands in the mural, it implies that possibly these two being central to the mural, being like surrounded by like this triangular design and everything, that they were probably leaders of a combined society between both worlds. Because Water Baby mentions that the rifts are supposed to be open to each other, that the worlds are supposed to be connected, that that's the natural state of things. So that is my theory, based on that mural. These two used to rule together as the leaders of a combined society between both worlds. A centaur and a human. A couple. Lovers, even. Who were the head of everything. Something went wrong. Don't know what, but again, the Nowhere King blames her for it. And at some point, he became the monstrosity that he is now. She had to lock him away in the rift while closing the portals between the worlds, separating Centaurworld from the human world for good, or so she planned at least, trapping her within Centaurworld while making sure he couldn't escape. Everything seems to be telling us that, but the details are still unclear. We don't know like everything behind this. We don't know all the information, and this is just speculation at this point based on the mural, which we see for like a very short time. It's like only a few seconds here. But we see that the Nowhere King is like actively looking at it too. And even uses the staff that was stabbed in him. He pulls it out of himself and slams it into the wall, stabbing the wall right between the woman and the centaur in the center of the mural. This definitely further provides evidence that the woman and the centaur are him and the woman. So I just feel that that is what they're going for here, and I'm very, very excited to find out what the actual situation is, and the facts and the information we find out from that. But what we can tell for the Nowhere King currently is that he is exceptionally strong. That his magic is on an entirely other level than even the shamans. And that pretty much no one can take him currently. So it makes me wonder how they are going to defeat him, because the battle against him in these episodes was practically one-sided. They were able to hold him off slightly a little bit and distract him a bit, but they weren't able to actually do anything to him. Even when it looked like stabbing him with the scepter was going to work, it didn't actually stop him at all. Like, pretty much at all. In fact, the woman kind of implies that it made him stronger. So it's like, that's not great. But this finale gave me a lot to think about. And as I said, we are moving straight into season 2. We are not taking a break, because the reason I normally take breaks, as I've stated before, is because I don't want to end up reaching a point where I start to feel burnt out on a series. I feel like if we just went straight through the series and kept on with multiple seasons, it would start to become too much for me, and I would feel burnt out. I would feel not bored with the series, but tired of it. And that would hurt my enjoyment of the show, of reacting to the show, and it would affect my reactions. So I take breaks. And sometimes with longer shows, I'll take breaks after so many episodes if I start to feel like, oh, I feel like I'm getting a little burnt out on this. And I think that's the right thing to do with most stuff. But at least for Centaurworld right now, I am so actively invested in this that, again, as I stated, if I were to take a break, my mind would be so focused on this series that it would be like all I would be able to think about. I would be constantly thinking about it while recording other reactions. And it would distract me from those other reactions. Keep me from being able to focus. Because I would be so anxious to continue with this series. I'm that invested in it. And this is rare for me. The only other series I think that could kind of be the case for me is One Piece. That's the reason why I don't usually take breaks from One Piece. The only reason we're taking a break, at least as of when I'm recording this, actually the break will be over by the time you see this, but the reason I took a break for a few episodes was because those episodes were directly connected to Film Red, and I wanted to do those during the same week that I did the Film Red movie, which I don't know when that's going to end up being. I don't know if that's already up at this point when this comes out, because this is coming out in mid to late September, this reaction. But I don't think that Film Red's going to be available by then. So it's probably not out yet. Because I'm recording this in mid to late August, basically a month ahead of time of when it's actually being posted. So, yeah. But it's like, I don't know. But the reason I took the break is because of that. Otherwise, it's like this is a show that, again, I just continue watching because I'm that invested in it. And the only reason I've taken breaks from the Owl House, honestly, is because the breaks were mandatory. They were kind of forced on me. Honestly, if I had the option, if I were able to just get through it all, I would have no reason to take a break because I'm that invested in the Owl House. If I could have gone right into season 3, if that were out, I would have. It's like there's just some shows that I'm just that invested in. And this is definitely one of them. It's not even only that I'm just not feeling burnout, it's that I'm feeling the exact opposite. I'm so into this series that it would actually hurt the experience to take a break between the seasons here. So as much as I would like to, in order to, just keep to keep me from like getting through it too fast, basically, I need to get into season 2. And with season 2, we'll do the same thing as we did with this season. We'll do one at a time until probably the finale, if it's another 2-parter. But we are going to be going right into it. So next week, as of you seeing this, next week you will see season 2, episode 1. That it is just directly continuing. There's not even going to be a week off. But yeah, I might take a break from recording it for a little bit. Just like a week or so, maybe off. Just because I have this recorded so far in advance. But I'm not taking a break from like truly getting to the series. It'll just be a short break if I take off from recording, just for the time being. And even so, it's like, as long as it's like only like a week or whatnot, I can handle that. But much more than that, I would not be able to. Especially after this finale, especially with as much as it's given me to think about. Either way, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of these final 2 episodes of Season 1 of Centaurworld? And, as always, no spoilers. Because as of currently, I believe, unless I'm forgetting something, which I guess is possible, but to my knowledge, I'm completely spoiler-free on this series from here on out. The only thing I was really spoiled on has already happened, the Nowhere King and everything. And I really want it to stay that way. So, no spoilers, please. But you can tell me what you thought about everything I mentioned. And thank you once again so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.